Say some gangster is dissing your fly girl. You just give him one of these.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Play or Nay, a series where I look at new games and tell you whether or not they're worth playing, if they're good games or not. Now, today, I have a game that is nowhere near what you would call good in any conventional sense of the word. It is captivating in the same way watching someone fall down and roll around is captivating and fun to watch. It is, without a doubt, one of the strangest and most bewildering experiences I've ever had in a game, and I loved it, and also fucking hated it. So basically, it's an FMV game with little bits of combat spliced in between. It's called The Quiet Man, and it was quietly released by Square Enix, probably because they realised that it's just beyond logic, the entire game. So you basically play as Michael Pitt, but not actually Michael Pitt, which just made me very sad and made me want to go back and watch Boardwalk Empire Seasons 1 and 2. Effectively, he is just this dude with floppy hair. He's deaf as well, and he goes around and beats up the same three guys over and over and over again. Kind of like a very discriminatory Groundhog Day. You see these three guys right there? You keep fighting them over and over again. There's barely any difference between any of them. And the fights themselves are terrible. You press square, and sometimes it'll hit them, sometimes it won't. Sometimes you can block them. Did you see that guy do a little electro shuffle there? It's full of stuff like this. It's an experience that you really have to play. It's beyond comprehension how this got made and how no one at one point said, oh, hold on, this isn't right. It's a little bit off. Let's put it in the oven for a bit longer, because there's so much wrong with it that it also almost becomes right. Like the way the fighting is, it's just bizarre. You just basically spam square to begin with, but as the game progresses, that was a problem with my TV right there, by the way, not the game itself. That's one thing I got right. As the game progresses, the enemies just get really weirdly difficult. There's no logic applied to them. You can punch them, but sometimes they'll block and sometimes they won't. There's never any rationale with any of it. They'll just sometimes be like, oh, no, I don't want this, and block it forever. Other times they'll just be like, yeah, kick me right in the teeth. It's just no, it's brilliant. There's no sense to anything going on. I forgot the main hook while we're here. There is no dialogue or audio or anything. What there is audio, it's just little bleeps and little twinkles from Imogen Heap, because, of course. And so the entirety of the story is relayed through nothing, just visuals of people staring at each other for a long time. There is a sequence early on where Dane, the main character, but you know, I could blame you for not knowing that, because he's about as fucking likable as a sponge, is just talking to a guy for 6 minutes, just talking to a guy, not even really. And you have no insight into what they're saying, apart from the fact that they're bros, because they have a special handshake, and it's very cool. And that goes on for about 6 minutes. And he's just sat there with like these little twinkles going on, just wondering what's happening. It's supposed to be an insight into how it is to be deaf in conversation and social situations, but Dane is seen communicating back with him, so I don't get it. Why not just let us hear what they're saying? If he has an idea of what his friend is saying, why can't we? It's bizarre, and there's just the story is cut interspersed with little FMV scenes, with real actors who really don't want to be there, and your mum, yeah, your mum is also your love interest or something. Your mum got shot early on, and she somehow either got resurrected as an exact clone who also sings lounge music, or you're just mentally unwell and are projecting your thoughts of your mother on some random person who you may or may not be stalking, or you may actually be the bodyguard of. I don't know. The game doesn't explain anything. It's just left there. There is a patch in a week that will supposedly explain everything when it introduces sound, but why not have that to begin with? Why not have the option between hearing and not hearing. And this fight you're seeing here, this is just the game summed up. This guy will only sometimes take an attack on the chin. Other times he'll just block it, and then he'll quite regularly just get you in these combos that he can't get out of. So you're just stuck there, just hoping that the game will luck you out. I just figured out just to keep kicking him into things. It's just like every problem in life, if you can't solve it, kick it into some wood. And it was really annoying and difficult, not because it was actually genuinely difficult. Yeah, he stands there and shines a light at you like it's a goddamn laser beam. Because he'll hit you in like 2 hits and you're down, and you just don't know when to hit him. You just keep pressing triangle. The game doesn't translate like anything, doesn't explain a thing about its mechanisms or anything like that. You go in the pause menu and there's basic controls there by pressing the controls. It doesn't interpret anything about the flow or the objectives you have to do. By the way, there are no objectives. It's just go to a room and continue beating up the same 3 people who have the regenerative skills of a Wolverine, apparently, because they're fucking everywhere. You meet these 3 gang members early on, and they just keep popping up. I don't know what his problem with them is. He just gets a little burger at one point, goes along and says, "Oh, I'm going to beat up these gangsters," and then they just keep appearing. And then there's this guy who looks like a terrible plague doctor, but also not. Everyone knows Kung Fu. Why does everyone know Kung Fu? How does he know Kung Fu? I don't understand. And it's brilliant. It just goes on and on and on for 3 hours, and you just sat there just trying to think of anything to think about it, but you can't. It's just weird. The fighting itself isn't great either, because he'll do moves and sometimes he'll just teleport to places and do special maneuvers, and other times you can just run around in circles and just ignore each other until you hit him. It's magical. It truly is a thing of magnificent beauty. Say he got me there with his weird laser, but then he just stood there afterwards like, well, that'll teach you, Michael Pitt. Don't step to me, Raven Plague Man. I wrote notes and I was going to do this properly, but I've started on a tangent now and I'm just going to go with it. But what I will say is this: if you want to play the video game equivalent of The Room, it's not quite as unironically terrible as The Room, but it's about as close as you're going to get. It's beyond description. It's one of the strangest things I've ever played or experienced in my life. I watched a movie called A Ghost Story about a week ago, which has a 5-minute sequence of someone just eating cake, and I felt more invested in that. 5 interrupted minutes, by the way, of someone eating a cake, and I felt more invested in that, and I had more of an idea of what's going on, because Rooney Mara really fancied a bit of pie. I kind of got that. With this, it doesn't explain anything, and including a patch a week later after release, it just feels like kind of naive, like everything about it. It seems like they wanted to make a movie, but well, they were just like, sprinkle a bit of game in here and there, just to remind people that it's a game. Because none of it's well done at all. There's some nice transitions, to its credit, between when it goes between real life, as it were, and the video game. But beyond that, there's literally nothing redeeming about this unless you want to play it for pure comedy value. And I forgot to upload the clip. There's this guy who has like a peanut for a head, and he's the big bad, but he also isn't. And the lights go off, and then you fight him, and then you run around, and then he's got a trundles after you like a little spider Frankenstein. Oh, it's just magnificent. It's cheap as well. So, if you're looking for something to do to entertain people that you have over at your house, get them to play through A Quiet Man. Even after it's patched, you've got to play through this bit. It's just transcends everything you know about anything. It's wonderful and quite shit.